Irgizli, a village in the Urals, at Europe's easternmost edge. It's not the clock that determines the rhythm here, it's the livestock. At sunrise, the cows leave their shed in order to look for food in the forest and on the meadows. Rush hour in Irgizli. It's May. For 5 months, the animals and people here will be able to enjoy the mild climate of the southern Urals. The cows come from all parts of the village, meeting on the road leading out of the village. For Larissa and her neighbours, it's time for a quick morning chat. The animals are left to their own devices throughout the day. There are no fences. The animals take care of themselves, like everywhere else in the Urals. Another 12 kilometers to Irgizli, more than an hour's drive for us. There are no surface roads anywhere in the Urals. After rainfall, the tracks become impassable. Buses or trains? No chance. Anyone who wants to travel here has to accept long journey times and a lot of bruises. The last section of our journey crosses a bridge that doesn't look particularly trustworthy. It crosses the Bielaya River on the border with Asia. The men are taking rice and flour to Irgizli. One of them tells us a joke about Europe's eastern border. Only pessimists learn Chinese in our schools. The optimists learn English, he says. The Bielaya has carved deep gorges into the limestone slopes. The country is sparsely populated. There are a few small villages dotted around in the expanses of the dark forests that cover the rounded summits of the Ural Mountains. The Urals extend for more than 2,000 kilometers from the Arctic Ocean in the north to Kazakhstan. The village of Irgizli, with a population of 600, is located in the south. The villagers have come together to butcher Alexander Georgievich's pig. He's just scraping the last bristles off. The men are delighted. They'll be meat. But Alexander isn't quite so happy. He's 69 years old. Since his heart attack, he hasn't been able to get stuck in as much. He was the one who raised the pig that's currently being butchered.
When it was little, it was scared and ran into the wall of the shed. We carefully put a bowl of food in, and it ate. It slowly got used to me. Later, it really clung to me and nibbled my trousers. I could even stroke it.
It's not long before Alexander's pig is hanging on the banya, the Russian sauna. Fat meat is a luxury here in Irgizli. Ribs, bacon and ham, rind, sausages, offal. There will be a feast today. People have come to Alexander from all over the village. I love ribs, says the babushka, and of course Alexander is happy to sell her a large chunk of the pig.
На вон повешай.
1 kilogram costs 55 rubles, that's €1.50. The whole pig will be sold today on credit because hardly anyone in Irgisli has any money. They'll pay later, in kind. The neighbour's happy with her greasy ribs. It's a really good day.
Я мясо что найду, куплю.
550 за 10 килограмм.
Да, за 3.
За 3 килограмма по...
Видимо, человеку забить. Иной вот забьет скотину, она вот...
Some people kill animals too quickly when they slaughter them. They don't twitch. Mine twitched for half an hour. I had tea, and it was still twitching.
A pig has to be drained of its blood, otherwise the ham doesn't taste nice. Nobody here is rich, and yet this village feels like an idyll. The woman looking after the geese has the whole day to herself and her noisy chicks. Even the smoke seems to drift through the valley more slowly and languidly than elsewhere. At first glance, Irgisli seems like paradise, especially for children. Just how remote the village is demonstrated by the fact that we're the first foreigners who've ever been seen here. Then the reality catches up with us in the post office. The mood is tense. The women are expecting post from their men who are at war in Chechnya. Sometimes they write back immediately. Tanzila Hairulina is the village postwoman. Before she sets off on her round, she sorts the letters and magazines 3 times per week.
Everyone is waiting for their papers and letters. They constantly ask me if the mail has arrived, but it's always delayed.
But Tanzila at least is punctual. She's the one who delivers all the good news as well as the bad news in the village. She used to work in construction, often far away from home. As a postal worker, she can stay in the village permanently and look after her 4 children. She doesn't have a problem with the dogs. Larissa, who lives with her 2 children on the outskirts of the village, has received a parcel. A special surprise. Her husband works in the woods and only comes home at the weekends. Larissa takes care of the household and the livestock. Although it's only a basic kitchen knife, it's something really special for Larissa. She's very pleased. But Larissa still picks the nettles by hand.
I collect the nettles as a medicine against dandruff. I made a brew with hot water with which we wash our hair. It's the best thing for dandruff. It's just as good as Head and Shoulders.
The work in the garden is laborious. In the spring, Larissa has her hands full because she wants to harvest onions, potatoes and cabbage in the autumn. But Larissa won't do the gardening in an apron.
I always try to make myself look nice. I want people to be happy when they see me. That's why I wear a little makeup. I try to dress naturally and want to look a bit different from the others.
The shop. That's the meeting place in Irgizli. Anyone in need of something comes here, even if it's just a bit of gossip. Larissa shops here too, for the things she can't grow on the fields or in the garden. The sign reads 24-hour life, and indeed the shop is open around the clock. Modest as the stocks look to us, for the people here the shelves are often filled with wishes and dreams that are out of their reach, tempting goods from the world beyond the mountains. Lilia is the soul of this shop. She has a big smile and a friendly word for everyone here. Dried apricots, 12 rubles per kilogram. The goods are cheap for us, but many here can barely afford the basics. The average income is 20 euros per month. That's just about enough for flour, tea, sugar and a few cigarettes. Larissa has a second job, but she isn't doing much better either. Every ruble is carefully considered before it's spent. For the temperamental Lilia, the small shop has become the centre of her life. She and her husband are Muslim Bashkirs. After the end of the Soviet Union, they banked on their own strength and opened a shop. Lilia has modern views that are viewed with scepticism by many of the older villagers. Lilia, the Muslim, is quite frank when talking to us about the villagers' zest for life.
They're big boxes. We sell more than one big box per month, and every packet contains 144 condoms. Things are getting wilder in the bedroom. In the past, the women had 8 or 10 children. They couldn't get abortions. The doctor was far away, so they had to have the children. Today, they buy condoms.
There's a wide selection of goods. In addition to condoms and goods from all around the world, she also stocks a broad range of esoteric items.
We Bashkirs like hanging bright, colourful things on our walls and doors. That's how we defend ourselves against evil eyes and evil spirits.
Next door, Anna Semyonova reads cards. Anyone wanting to know something about the future comes to her. Anna also knows if a cow is already pregnant or how many children someone will have. The cards don't lie, she says. She carefully analyses someone's fate. Anna even knows the future of the village.
There will be unrest. And fire. And there will be deaths.
Śmierć means death. Anna is predicting dark times for the village. You don't need to be a fortune teller. Death is everywhere. The tough living conditions and the poverty mean that people here die young. Men live to 52 on average. The main causes of death are lung cancer and cirrhosis of the liver. At the cemetery, we meet Nina Andreevna, the wife of Alexander, the man with the pig. The teacher is grieving for a student's mother.
She had a German father and Russian mother. She died far too young of leukemia.
There are only 6 students in Nina Andreevna's 3rd grade. The only thing we understand is that it's about foxes and Russian grammar.
Молодец. Так. Пожалуйста, Халид, твое любой обязательно кто? Можно что?
Лиса какой хитрый.
Yrgyzly is home to 140 children. They go to school for 11 years here. Languages, science and physical education are all on the curriculum. In particular, they learn a lot about discipline from Nina. Nina is about to retire after more than 30 years here in the village school. She doesn't dare think about what will happen then.
Смерть, наверное, короче говоря.
I'll probably die. I always tell myself that doesn't have to be the case, but my heart tells me differently. I love my work. The worst thing is living opposite the school. I tell my husband we should board up those windows so I don't have to see the school. It'll be tough to stop.
Graduation celebrations in Year 11. The students are wearing a uniform in honour of the occasion. After their basic education here in the village, they're about to embark on a new phase in life. They mainly have to decide whether they want to stay or leave for the city. Nina Andreevna is in the back row behind her young charges. It's the last time she's bidding a class farewell. After that, she'll be retired. The young graduates are looking ahead with confidence. Many have big hopes and dreams.
I want to go to university and study business. And then I want to start a family. I want to study, get good training and a good job. I want to be loved and rich. I want to come back here. It's so beautiful. I was born here and love the village and my parents. I'll definitely come back. I want to leave, but one day I'll be back.
Declarations of love for Yrgyzly. After the official farewell, the party in the gymnasium is as wild as any in Tokyo or New York. Vadim is one of the people who've been away. After his years in the army, he's returned. Today, he's heading out into the forest. He needs wood for the house he wants to build. This is his world, the wild open spaces of the mountains. The Urals see virtually no cultivation here in the south and are covered almost entirely in pristine forest. Everyone just takes what they need. There's plenty of wood. His neighbours are already waiting for him in the forest. The men in Irgisli love working together out in the open, and they like being among themselves. Vadim has brought a surprise for his friends, of course. Before they get going, they can have a hearty swig of beer. They're no experts when it comes to logging trees. None of the men have had any training, but those who don't know how to help themselves won't have a roof over their heads later. So they do their best. It's dangerous. The trees don't always fall the way it was intended. But they're good at improvising, and in the end, the tree is always on the ground. The men have taken the ancient sawmill and the heavy hauler from the collective farm of the Soviet era. When there's fuel, everything runs perfectly. The men perform the repairs themselves. They help each other. Everyone here is a forestry worker, sawmill worker and carpenter all in one.
Просто у нас собираются, помогаем друг другу.
There are always a lot of us in the sawmill. We help each other. When we're building a house, friends and family come to help. Otherwise, you can't build a house. You'd need a lot of money.
They all help each other, and since there's always someone in Irgisli who's building a house, the sawmill is rarely shut. Today they're sawing the floorboards. The reciprocating saw is old, but with a few kicks in the right place, everything runs smoothly. The men know their old reciprocating saw very well. They know when something's not right. But there aren't any problems today. Vadim's in his element.
Jokes create a good atmosphere, and sometimes we drink something, but not a lot, so nobody passes out.
Nobody has a house made of stone. The houses in Irgisli are log houses, like everywhere in the Urals. The tree trunks are laid on top of each other in a crisscross fashion, as is traditional. The cracks are filled with moss. The winters are long and very cold. There's no warming insulation. The walls consist of nothing but a layer of logs that's trimmed on the inside with an axe. That makes the rough tree trunks smooth and straight. Plasterboard, wallpaper and panels are also unknown in Irgisli. The walls just stay the way they are. These men can do anything, even build a window. The house has to be ready, warm and cosy by the time the winter comes. But until then, Vadim and his friends have quite a lot of work left to do.
Ну, как не нравится? Нравится, я здесь дом построил.
I like it here.
Уже
I'm building a house here because I don't want to go anywhere else.
Потому что
After the army,
возможности после армии.
I could have lived elsewhere,
Но я не захотел.
but I love the forest and fishing and never want to leave.
Так что никуда не хочу уезжать.
Even though they have neither playgrounds nor computers, the children are happy. Large parts of the Urals are protected or have been declared a national park. The forest isn't used much anyway, but in the protected areas, logging and hunting are forbidden. Hassan and Sabit make sure of that. But one thing is permitted here. Up in the trees there's a treasure that's incredibly valuable. A treasure that's sold from here to Moscow and achieves top prices in the markets there. It's a treasure that's said to have miraculous powers. Hassan and Sabit know how to find it. First you need dried oak that produces a lot of smoke when burned in a can. Sabit climbs an old gnarled pine that even his great-great-grandfather climbed. These lofty heights have been home to a colony of wild bees for almost a century. Once a year, Sabit steals some of their delicious honey. This business has a long-standing tradition, and every old colony has an owner. Bashkir wild honey is Irgisli's only export. Honey means wealth here. But the wild beekeepers aren't the only ones looking for honey. They have stiff competition in the forest that likes to snack too.
When I started working here in '91, I had no idea where the hives were. I looked around for them in the trees. Then a bear came out of the bush. She came right at me. She was just 4 meters away. I shot my rifle into the air. She got scared and ran away, and her cubs climbed up a birch.
Sabit knows all of Hassan's adventure stories, but he still likes listening to them around the campfire in the evening. Stanka, a young calf, was out in the woods for the first time alone today. That's just as exciting as the first day at school, says Larissa. She was worried about the calf that she's now bringing back home to the shed. She's relieved. Stanka is more than a pet. If the calf becomes sick or lost in the forest, then Larissa and her family will have to go hungry the whole winter. That's why Larissa looks after her little calf very carefully.
Вот молодец, пришла домой. Ух.
Stanka only gets good food. Larissa makes sure of that. The way to a calf's heart is clearly through its stomach.
She's still so small. This summer and the next she'll run around outside, but then we'll slaughter her. She's still like a child, only 3 months old. She still gets milk.
Noshka, the little knight. The mother cow returns from the forest of her own accord when she wants to be milked. She's a real prima donna and aware of her importance. Noshka provides milk, cheese, butter, curds and cream. If she doesn't get pregnant, there's no meat.
We like her a lot. She's a good girl. We look after her in winter and summer. Nobody can survive in the village without a cow. Our most important food comes from the garden and the cow. In the shop, we only buy what we have to.
Noshka even feeds the cats. It's a constant give and take between the people and the animals. While Marina, the daughter, feeds the chickens and ducks, Larissa searches for the eggs. The concern for the animals is primarily constant concern for sufficient food for the whole family.
I have 10 hens and 3 cockerels, so we get a lot of eggs. We use them for baking and cooking. We sell the remaining eggs. The brooding hens are given extra eggs, so we get more chicks. But they mustn't get cold, or we'll have no chicks.
Economizing and looking ahead determine the rhythm in Irgisli. Lilia, the shop owner, likes to drink a cup of tea in the afternoon. She and her husband have known each other since school.
At school, I told him I needed a fur hat. He told me if I married him, I'd get everything. So I told him to propose.
Their relatives can remember it well. Lilia has to go out into the garden. She's the only one in the village to own a polytunnel. Karim built it for her. Her vegetables grow twice as fast in it. After the end of the Soviet Union, Lilia and her husband quickly learned that personal initiative is the only thing that leads to success.
My mother always did everything my father said. I want my 3 daughters to speak for themselves when they get married one day.
The women also enjoy being among themselves. They paint the fence together so that Irgisli, the village in the Urals, becomes a little bit prettier. The neighbours are amazed.
You silly little things.
Вот бестолковые. Что? А?
Alexander is almost over the loss of his pig.
Вот сейчас, чтобы в воду холодную не попал он.
You have to take great care of them so they don't go into the water. They mustn't get cold or fall on their backs.
Холодно на улице.
Cold water's the worst.
Они боятся холода.
Alexander loves his goslings far too much again. Nina, his wife, is preparing the bread for dinner. Despite the big changes that came with the end of the Soviet Union, the problems between the parents and their children have remained the same.
As long as our children are at home, everything is fine. When they return after their training, they've changed. They're not drug addicts, but they tend to drink a lot.
Nina's son got married in the neighbouring village. He only rarely comes home. She's baked a loaf for him. After more than an hour in the oven, it's crunchy and smells delicious. Will he pick it up?
Ну, посмотрите, какой он внутри. Хрустящая корочка.
Every woman here has her own secret about how to make the tastiest bread. Nina's bread is particularly good.
Такой душистый, мягкий, пышный. Еще вот остынет он вообще хороший. Возьмите тут кусочек сада.
But there's time before dinner, and Alexander has to muck out the pigsty. Despite his serious heart attack 15 years ago, Alexander still has to do almost all the work on the farm himself. He doesn't do sick leave. He doesn't just muck the place out for hygienic reasons. He needs the fertile manure for the vegetable plot. Alexander has never complained, but these days he moans about his life from time to time.
Ну а что про них рассказать? Вот с утра до
All the
вечера.
livestock. They keep us on our feet from morning till night. We're their hostages.
Уже болеть нельзя.
We mustn't get sick.
Она не
We
понимает.
constantly have to clean up and feed them.
Корми, почисти.
Sometimes Alexander has to get help. His brother's grandson has come to help him with the ploughing and harrowing. The old man hasn't been able to ride for a long time. But Alexander's not completely happy with his young helper.
Едешь, да? А потом вот так вот будешь.
Да. Сперва это середину, потом это по краю.
He has lots of instructions.
Чтобы не топтать. Айда, начинай прямо.
Я.
Ты пошел. Вон, на стоп, держи. Давай на меня. На меня.
For almost 50 years, Alexander has cultivated the field in front of his house in the manner he thought was right. Now his great-nephew can't even keep a straight line.
Вот край этого-то бери и пошел так.
Ладно.
Вот теперь край это бери. Неправильно идет.
That's wrong, he shouts. Not like that. To the right, this way.
Посередке, да.
Вот, край это бери. Вот, край этой бразды. Сюда не надо. Там вот опять перетак.
It's like everywhere in the world. The young don't want to do it like the old. They think they can already do everything, and that quickly leads to arguments.
Поворачивай на месте здесь вот так.
Ладно.
На месте, край этой бразды, чтобы шел.
People are people, here in the Urals and elsewhere in the world. Alexander agrees with his wife Nina about that.
People are all the same. 2 legs, 2 hands, 1 soul. I've never seen a Chinese person, but they're all the same. Nationality is irrelevant.
The Urals don't separate Asia from Europe. Rather, they link the 2 continents. Everyone in Irgisli is agreed about that.